Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 12th December 2016. The first article is related to Time to Blow the Whistle. It is about the amendments proposed to the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988. First one is the definition of corruption in the section 13(1)(d) of the Prevention of Corruption Act. As of now, it states that any of the pecuniary advantage or graft or benefit obtained by a public servant by any means, it comes under the definition of corruption. So it means that the corruption is recognized as direct and indirect, monetary and through other means. Now it is being changed in this way. Any of misappropriation of the property under the control of an officer, disproportionate assets, intentional illicit graft, these three come under the definition. What is the difference between first and the second? Now the first recognizes corruption can be direct or indirect. The second clearly states that if a money is obtained and there is a monetary advantage to the civil servant, then only it shall be recognized as corruption. Let's take this scenario 1. When minister and civil servant are there, if the minister asks the civil servant to do a favor, then civil servant, if he does, either taking the money or not taking the money, that comes under the definition of corruption in the existing situation. Now, in the amendment, if the civil servant does that activity without taking the money, it do not come under the definition of corruption. So it means that the civil servant, a honest civil servant, he is losing the advantage, and now minister will be in a position to force him to carry forward his intentions, to take forward something out of the rule by the civil servant. So that is one thing which is possible. If you talk about 2G spectrum case or 3G coal block scam, all these are based on 13(1) subclause D, where a pecuniary advantage has come to the bureaucrat. So the bureaucrats want to escape from 13(1) subclause D. So that's why this amendment is coming forward. Now understand again, the bureaucracy's argument is this. Because of the existence of 13(1) subclause D, there is a policy paralysis in the government. Now, any good intentional decision that went wrong can also be taken in a negative light by the investigative agencies, citing the 13(1) subclause D. So let's take, if a bank manager goes to Vijay Mallya and asks to him that, can you pay off at least some money? Then the government can construct that as a loss to the exchequer, loss to the bank, due to the action of the civil servant, and can punish him, citing the corruption under 13(1) subclause D. Here the officer intention is good, that he needs to recover at least some money from Vijay Mallya. But however, it can be projected other way around through investigation, citing as a loss to the exchequer. It means either an individual got the benefit or not. Either the officer got the benefit or not. If he is causing any loss to the exchequer and a pecuniary advantage to a private individual, that can be constructed as corruption today. So that is the reason why the honest officials are getting harassed because of the section 13(1)(d). And also, the best intentioned or well intentioned decisions that have gone wrong also getting punished for here, also going for investigation over here. And the second thing is, let's come to the disproportionate assets. What do we mean by this? Previously, there is a presumption of guilt with regard to disproportionate assets. It means any individual possessing the disproportionate assets, it has to be seen as the money came through graft. Now, the disproportionate assets, it shall be proven that they are being obtained by the officer with an intention to enrich himself. So it means the prosecution has to prove that there is a connection between the graft and the disproportionate assets. Previously, the presumption that any disproportionate asset has come from a graft for an officer do not apply today. So the burden of proof today is on the prosecution. And the next is, previously the situation is like this. What is a disproportionate asset? How is it defined? It is compared with the income declarations made by an officer. Every officer at definite time periods have to declare their source of income and their assets, and later they cannot revise it. Now, later the officer can give additional sources of income if he possesses any. So it means that he can bypass his early declaration and can show the fresh sources of income at a later date. So it means it will be bypassing or it will be weakening entire argument of the disproportionate itself. He can make some other assets or some other sources of income when the investigation is on. And the next is, with regard to the evidence given by the bribe giver. Here, a bribe giver's evidence shall not be seen as an evidence for initiating the prosecution against him for abetment of corruption, for encouragement of corruption. So, both bribe taker and bribe giver are punishable under the Prevention of Corruption Act. But if a bribe giver gives an evidence against a bribe taker, his evidence shall not be seen as a proof for the abetment of corruption, for encouragement of corruption by the bribe giver, and prosecution cannot be initiated. But this protection is being taken away under the amendment. It means it is going to discourage the bribe giver from giving evidence against the bribe taker. So here we need to differentiate the corruption into two types: coercive corruption and collusive corruption. In the coercive corruption, the bribe giver is an unwilling partner. So, in spite of this, as he has given the bribe, his evidence can be made against him to prosecute him. So it means it's going to disincentivize bribe giver to give an evidence against the bribe taker. And after this, now investigation and prosecution. As of now, prosecution needs government permission. Now it has been made much complicated. If a private citizen wants to ask a prosecution of a public official, a court order is also necessary. And getting the court order is not an easy process. And the next is, with regard to investigation, the Supreme Court in Vineet Narayan case, what it said is this. Previously, let's take the previous situation. Any officer about the joint secretary level, if a permission need to be given for investigation, a permission is necessary from the government. But below joint secretary level, no permission is necessary. Then Supreme Court in Vineet Narayan case declared that having the permission for the joint secretary and above and not having that below, it is a kind of inequality. So, unequal treatment. So, it has said that. So, now today government position is any investigation, if on any officer no permission is necessary. Now, it is being changed that for conducting investigation on any officer, not just the joint secretary, on any officer, permission is necessary. That is what is the amendment is trying to bring in. So because of these amendments, proving an officer as corrupt has become more difficult than ever before. So it is going to weaken our fight against corruption. That is this article talks about. Arrest of a military chief. For the first time, Air Force Chief Marshal Mr. Tyagi, he was arrested in VVIP choppers scam. So see here, the defense procurement is always a ground for corruption, and there are many intermediaries exist. So there are before, with regard to German submarines, Barak missiles, on the naval officers there were complaints such as Nanda and other people. But however, for the first time an officer of this level is being arrested from the armed forces. So in this context, none of them, in the previous cases, the corruption was established. So, probably to what extent the corruption will be established here is a difficult thing to understand. And second, the impetus for this did not come from India, but has come from Italy. The partner to this corruption, Mr. Orsi of Finmeccanica, was arrested in Italy and court has proven him guilty, and that has initiated the corruption charges against Mr. Tyagi in India. So, there is no takeaway point from here. We need to make defense procurement tight so that the incidences of the corruption comes down. Other than there is no take-home point there. A brutal victory in Aleppo. Now let us see the Syrian situation. There are rebels in Syria and then Syrian army of Assad government. Now the Syrian army is getting the support from Russia, Iran, Hezbollah. The rebels are getting the support from United States, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, etc. So there is a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia which is happening in the Syria. Now, this Aleppo, the commercial city of Syria, was under the control of the rebels till yesterday. Now it has come under the control of the Syrian army. In the process of control, there is a lot of human life that has suffered. So in this context, the Syrian army and rebels, if they come for talks, then the focus of the army can be shifted towards another menace, that is ISIS, that need to be taken up. And second thing is, the US and Russia shall come to the negotiation table to take up the ceasefire agreement. And third thing is, US did not want to involve militarily in Syria. It is just providing for the support to the rebels. So here, this reluctance of US has given a victory for Russia, and it has developed the differences for US with Saudi Arabia. Now, legacy of a social movement. Now, this is about Tamil Nadu and growth of the Dravidian parties on Tamil Nadu. There are three pillars to growth of Tamil Nadu's Dravidian parties. One is Tamil identity, anti-Brahminism, and then the popular programs and social movements. That is welfareism. These are the three foundations on which Dravida parties have grown up. Now, if you see, the first one is DK, which belongs to Periyar. Then Annadurai has brought in DMK. Later, Karunanidhi became the head of DMK, and AIDMK has come into existence under MGR. And after that, it is Jayalalitha. And then it is the question. So, during the DMK reign in 1964, anti-Hindi agitation was very much high online. And this anti-Hindi agitation, it was rooted in the Tamil identity. And second, the caste politics are very much high in Tamil Nadu. And it is one way the advantageous over there, because the caste is so prominent and the people are so divided on the caste lines. No single party is able to serve one single caste and claim the political leadership. On the other hand, if you see Karnataka, two major castes Vakalingas and Lingayats are controlling the political spectrum. There is no such a situation in the case of Tamil Nadu. And anti-Brahminism, the very DMK Dravida movement is based on this. And welfare programs, you talk about Amma canteens, free TVs, populistic welfare programs, these are the basis. So these barriers need to be broken for any national parties to enter into Tamil Nadu. Asking the right questions. So it is a retort to the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's article. In this, what the author says about is, the government is not just depending on demonetization to fight the black money. It has also enacted the Benami Transactions Prohibition Act, amendments to it, and notified the same. And second thing is, it is also looking into the foreign assets, the black money hoarded in the foreign banks. And then it wants to create a cashless economy. And then incentivizing a cashless transaction was initiated by the government. So these are the three things which he tries to hold on. Now, US arms technologies come closure. You know that Defense Trade and Technology Initiative, India Rapid Reaction Cell, these were established in Pentagon. And then India was given a status of major defense partner. It brings India in alliance with or in equation with other allies of United States of America. It means the license requirements to get access to the dual use technologies is going to come down for India. It means India and USA are going to come close to each other with regard to defense partnership, never like before. And National Defense Authorization Act of United States, it has given a legal status to it. It means tomorrow whoever comes to power, this relationship is expected to continue. And then zero import duty on wheat. The zero import duty, it means the imports of wheat are going to become cheaper and the millers are going to gain out of it. But the farmers, they have to sell their grain at a distressed price. So that's what is the farmers associations are talking about. The zeal for primacy. The Standing Committee on Law, it has stated that the original constitution did not provide for a judicial primacy in the appointment of the judges. But now, the second judge's case, judiciary has taken the primacy in the appointment of judges, which has disturbed the balance of power in the case of three organs of the government that is being argued. Now come to the Indian Express newspaper. In this, the beautiful article is this. Binding friendship, it is about India-US defense partnership, already we discussed. The great game in Aleppo, the same is covered in Hindu, we have discussed. The put house in order, it is about parliament. Now if you see that, the confidence of the parliament, of the people in parliament is all-time low. It is due to the frequent disruptions. The parliament is about debate, discussion, dissonance, decision making, but not at disruption. It is what the President Pranab Mukherjee was repeatedly telling us. So in this case, how we shall bring in the confidence of the people back into this democratic institution? The first thing is, as of now, the government will determine the agenda of the day, working of the parliament. So opposition role also need to be increased. So in UK, one day in a week will be given to the opposition to set the agenda for the day. The similar practice can be followed in India. And the freedom of speech for our MPs, it is very much low. That is the reason why the party's voice is getting strengthened and it is leading to centralization in functioning of the political parties. Rather than that, we have to allow our MPs for initiating a session in the Lok Sabha. It means few of the MPs, if they write to the President shall bring in session of the Lok Sabha. And then the freedom of speech need to be allowed. An anti-defection law has to be repealed. Then, different from the party opinions, MPs will be in a position to express their views on the floor of the House. And a open debate will be possible in the party and also on the floor of the House. So these amendments are necessary in the case of India. That is what this article talks about. And the next is, let's talk about the notes today. So the section 13(1)(d), what is talking about? Obtaining any valuable thing or a pecuniary advantage by illegal gratification is the corruption as of now. And that situation is changing and only monetary definition of corruption is coming up and it is weakening the law. And disproportionate assets, if possessed by an officer, it need to be proven by the prosecution that they are obtained through graft. And second, at a later date, if necessary, the officer can bring in other sources of income to substantiate his assets. And third, a person who has given the bribe, he can be punished based on his evidence against the officer, because bribe giving is also a offense. And the inquiry or investigation, section 17a says that investigation on any officer need to be given a permission. It is going to bring the ministerial control over the bureaucracy. And then arrest of a military chief, Air Force Chief Marshal was arrested by the CBI in VVIP scandal, VVIP chopper scandal. A brutal victory in Aleppo. The great game is going on in Aleppo. A kind of a cold war between Saudi Arabia and Iran is going on in Syria, and Aleppo is taken by Syrian forces from the rebels. And the humanitarian crisis is worsening, and the great forces has to do something about that. Perspective, asking the right questions. So the government is not just depending on the demonetization, but also through Binami transactions and bringing the cashless transactions and financial inclusion. It wants to fight the black economy. Legacy of a social movement. So the Tamil Nadu politics are based on Tamil identity and then anti-Brahminism, and they provide for, or they are based on welfareistic populism. So this legacy is going to stay for a while, and taking the advantage of the political vacuum created after death of Jayalalitha for the national parties may not be possible unless they break this. US arms and technologies comes closure. So India-US signed the logistics agreement, and now the India was declared as a major defense partner, and it is legally guaranteed through the National Defense Authorization Act. It means irrespective of who are coming into power, India is going to remain as a close defense partner to the United States. Zeal for primacy is necessary. This talks about judicial activism. And then put house in order, freedom of speech for MPs, and also giving an opportunity for the opposition to determine the agenda can strengthen the debate and voice of the MPs in the House. These are the articles for discussion for today. Thank you very much.